So we've probably got just under 7 or 8 minutes for group questions. So if we can get Sel back up and Gary, there are quite a few questions, so I'll probably only be able to do about one per person. Start with Sel. Is there any evidence to suggest that dredging on the northern area of Moreton Bay for Brisbane Port, etc., have played a role in the lack of sand depositing on the western side of Bribie Island?
I probably haven't got a lot of information on that. I'm not aware of any dredging in the vicinity of northern Bribie Island. There is a lot of dredging to the south. Spitfire Banks is probably the closest. That's, I don't know, guessing 20 kilometres away. There's no link between dredging at those distances and the current day erosion. Well, the fact that it's 20 kilometres away, that you've got a whole series of sandbanks and patterns, you've got a deep channel between Bribie Island and where that dredging is occurring. There's no pathway for that sand to move, and sand movement, certainly on the eastern side of Bribie, is to the south anyway.
Is there any science to back up these statements about the removal of about 8 billion cubic metres of sand out of the passages between two airports, extensions and the port, is not having any effect on the sand migration along the coast?
Well,
we might just repeat the question, if that's right. So the question was, is there any evidence, scientific evidence, to support that the removal of large quantities of sand for those particular developments has not had an impact? Am I paraphrasing correctly? Yep.
Okay, so I mean, we can sort of talk about what is scientific evidence, but the distance and the fact that there's channels between where Bribie is eroding and the sand's being taken, there can be no physical connection between those two processes. Okay.
All right, thanks for the questions. We could probably cover that one offline, or just have a quick follow-up from the audience there, and then we'll need to move on to the next question. Yeah. Sure. Okay, so funnily enough, we've got a jet ski related question. Once the breakthrough occurs and the water disperses through and the sand, will it drown out the jet skis? I think we can say, unfortunately not. So I might just cover that one myself and move on, if that's all right. This is a question for both of our local council representatives. What actions will council take to protect properties, infrastructure and parks at Golden Beach? And I'll leave it to you guys to fight out for the opportunity to address that one.
Well, it's really directed to me because our document already identifies what actions we're actually going to do to protect those localities. That's why I actually brought it down in that presentation to talk about the localities. They are all mapped out there. So there are identified protection measures. There are identified measures for dealing with natural values. So we want to protect and enhance our natural values as much as possible. We want to delay as much as we can hard protection measures, knowing that we already have quite a number of hard protection measures in there. We are also aware of the fact that the key issue that we're going to be dealing with is the change in water level. So whatever we're doing in there is protecting against the change in water level, and obviously changes therefore with regard to actual sand movement within that Pumicestone Passage. What they might be in the future probably needs a bit more evaluation, but at this point in time we have a plan based on what we know of the passage. So it's all documented in the Coastal Hazard Adaptation Strategy already. The actions are identified there, and they're identified for the 4 planning horizons, and they're identified for each of those localities. So it's all set out there in those localities. And then there's the regional actions on top of that, which talk about regional ecosystems, wetlands, and understanding, or making sure that we have a clear understanding of what climate change might mean to some of those sorts of values, and actually understanding what the proper management approaches should be with regard to those sorts of values. And very much what we've seen today gives us some indication that we've got some knowledge there about a lot of these sorts of issues.
All right, fantastic. That's probably all the questions we've got time for in that session. So I'd just like you to all join me in thanking our speakers for sharing their time and expertise today.